It was a crisp autumn evening in suburban Illinois, and the small town buzzed with excitement. The annual state gymnastics championship had just concluded at Ridgewood High School, where hundreds of spectators cheered for their favorite athletes. Among them was 16-year-old Ava Miller, a prodigy who had taken first place in the all-around competition. Her flawless routines, each movement precise, each landing silent as snowfall, earned her a standing ovation. But that night, Ava vanished without a trace. Her parents reported her missing after she failed to return home from the awards ceremony. Security footage from the school showed her leaving with her duffel bag slung over one shoulder, smiling into her phone as she texted a friend. Then nothing. No calls, no messages, no sightings. Just an empty street and a growing sense of dread. Ava wasn't the first. Over the past decade, 5 other top-tier gymnasts had disappeared under eerily similar circumstances, each during or immediately following major competitions. Authorities dismissed the cases as unrelated, chalking them up to runaway teens or unfortunate accidents. But whispers began to circulate among coaches, parents, and competitors. Something darker lurked behind these vanishings, something no one dared to name. Detective Claire Harper had seen it all in her 20 years on the force, but this case gave her chills. Not because of what she knew, but because of what she didn't. She sat in her dimly lit office, staring at the corkboard covered in photos, timelines, and notes scrawled in red marker. All high-level gymnasts, Claire muttered to herself. All gone within hours of winning big. She picked up a photo of Ava Miller mid-routine, her body arched in a perfect split leap, arms extended like wings. Beneath it was a newspaper clipping about another girl, Sophie Rivera, who'd won gold at Nationals 3 years ago. Her disappearance made national headlines when her car was found abandoned near a deserted highway rest stop. Inside, investigators discovered her leotard folded neatly on the passenger seat, along with a handwritten note that simply read, "Thank you for your sacrifice." Sacrifice? What kind of twisted logic could justify taking young lives? Claire leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. This wasn't random. Whoever was doing this had a plan, a motive rooted in obsession. And if they were going to catch him, they needed to understand why he chose these girls. Meanwhile, across town, Emma Hayes scrolled through Instagram, trying to distract herself from the knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. At 17, she was one of the brightest stars in competitive gymnastics, known for her gravity-defying vaults and razor-sharp focus. But tonight, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. Emma glanced out the window of her bedroom, scanning the darkened yard. Nothing moved except the wind riffling through the trees. Still, the sensation lingered, an invisible weight pressing against her chest. She pulled the blinds shut and turned off her phone, climbing into bed despite the gnawing unease. What Emma didn't know was that someone was watching her from far closer than she imagined. In a shadowy corner of his basement workshop, Marcus Cole adjusted the lens of a surveillance camera trained on Emma's house. He'd been preparing for months, studying her every move, memorizing the rhythm of her life. To him, Emma wasn't just another athlete. She represented perfection itself, a living embodiment of grace, strength, and discipline. Marcus had once dreamed of becoming a champion himself, but injuries derailed his ambitions early in life. Instead, he poured his energy into collecting artifacts of athletic brilliance, signed photographs, retired equipment, even fragments of uniforms worn during record-breaking performances. Yet none of it satisfied him. Not until he realized there was only one way to truly preserve excellence, to make it immortal. His methods were meticulous. He stalked his targets for weeks, learning their routines, identifying weaknesses. When the moment came, he acted swiftly and silently, ensuring no evidence remained. His victims weren't merely taken, they were enshrined, their talents preserved forever in his private sanctuary. And now Emma was next. Emma woke to the sound of footsteps outside her door. Heart pounding, she grabbed her phone and dialed 911, whispering urgently as she crept toward the window. "I think someone's in my house," she said, voice trembling. "Stay calm," the operator replied. "Help is on the way." But before Emma could respond, the line went dead. Confusion turned to panic as she realized her phone had no signal. The footsteps grew louder, echoing through the hallway. She backed away, clutching a baseball bat she kept under her bed, and braced herself for whatever, or whoever, was coming. Suddenly, the door burst open. A masked figure lunged at her, moving with terrifying speed. Emma swung the bat instinctively, connecting with a sickening crunch. But instead of falling, the intruder grabbed her wrist, twisting it until she dropped the weapon. Pain exploded in her arm as she screamed, struggling against his grip. Then everything went black. When Emma regained consciousness, she found herself in a cold, sterile room, illuminated by harsh fluorescent lights. Rows of glass cases lined the walls, each containing a macabre display, trophies, ribbons, and leotards encased like relics in a museum. In the center of the room stood a large steel vault, its surface engraved with intricate designs depicting athletes in motion. Emma tried to move, but her hands and feet were bound to a metal chair. Panic surged through her veins as she scanned the room for any sign of escape. That's when she noticed the others. 4 girls sat in identical chairs, their faces pale and hollow-eyed. They looked at her with a mixture of fear and resignation, as though they already knew their fate. One of them whispered hoarsely, "He's going to take you." Before Emma could respond, the door creaked open. Marcus entered wearing a pristine white lab coat and surgical gloves. His expression was calm, almost reverent, as he approached her. "You don't understand how special you are," he said softly. "Your talent, your dedication, it deserves to be remembered forever." Emma's breath hitched as tears streamed down her face. "Please," she begged, "let me go." Marcus shook his head, his tone unwavering. "I can't. You'll thank me later." With that, he injected her with a sedative, rendering her unconscious once more. Back at the precinct, Detective Harper received a breakthrough lead. A security camera near Emma's neighborhood had captured footage of a van speeding away shortly after her abduction. The license plate was partially obscured, but forensic analysts managed to reconstruct enough digits to identify the vehicle's owner. Marcus Cole. Armed with a warrant, Claire led a SWAT team to Marcus's secluded property on the outskirts of town. As they breached the front door, they discovered a labyrinthine basement filled with chilling evidence of his crimes. The glass cases, the trophies, the vault, all of it confirmed their worst fears. Inside the vault, they found Emma and the other survivors, weak but alive. Though traumatized, they provided crucial details about Marcus's rituals and motives. He believed he was protecting their legacies, ensuring their achievements would never fade. To him, death wasn't an end, it was preservation. Marcus resisted arrest, shouting deliriously about the importance of perfection. Officers subdued him, and he was taken into custody. Months later, Emma testified at Marcus's trial, her voice steady despite the memories that haunted her. The jury convicted him on multiple counts of kidnapping and attempted murder, sentencing him to life in prison without parole. Though justice